but it's basically there's a pressure tank and then there's a hose that connects to the speaker, and that hose has a nozzle at the end. It's really just open. The hose is the nozzle, and through the bounce of the speaker and with an addition to the sound waves, the paint the paint stream falls into the wave, and we're painting with sound waves.
Welcome to another episode of Bench Talk. I'm your host, Tom Gerard. This week, I'm sitting down with Hoxxoh, who's a Miami-based artist. He's a very interesting guest. Had a great time chatting with him. He is very unique to a lot of the artists I've spoke with. He's a bit of a mad scientist at coming up with his own tools and implements in order to create his own artwork. He sort of came up through the mural scene and made his name there. But these days, he still paints a lot of walls, but he works with implements that aren't usually used in creating murals. And he uses things like sprinklers, like hose sprinklers, garden equipment, and also works with sound and has created his own devices that use pressure hoses mixed with speakers and audio in order to create the patterns that appear in his artwork. I had a great time finding out a lot more about his artwork, his art practice, and just his life as an artist. It's a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Bench Talk, episode 197, Hoxxoh. And as always, this episode is brought to you by the Art Career Academy. For those of you out there wanting to build your art career and take it to the next level, check out artcareeracademy.com. So, Hoxxoh, thanks for taking the time to sit down and have a chat. It's I'm really looking forward to finding out more about you and your artwork.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man.
No worries. So, I guess we'll start at the start. Can you tell me where you're from and how you got into art?
I was raised in South Florida, and I'm based out of Miami now. I started making art in high school. Kind of, I wanted to play music or be a musician, but I have zero skills in that, so I just fell into painting.
Yeah. Were art classes your favorites, and was that something you really thrived at in school?
Uh, I just always drew, and yeah, for sure, the art classes was definitely where I felt most comfortable in high school.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. And the name
yeah.
Hoxxoh, where did that come from?
It's an abbreviation of my last name, which there's no X in it, but that's what my father used to say when we used to go to restaurants, which was rare. But they used to ask your last name for the reservation, and he would say HOX. So I just took that. And then the Hoxxoh was because Hox wasn't available on Instagram, so I made it a palindrome, which later on I realized it was an ambigram as well, a word you could read in every direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of matches your art and your I know, like what I see with your art, it's more well thought out and trying new things and playing around and experimenting, and I see that even within your name,
Yeah, it definitely reflects like this kind of, there's a bit of, I fall into these things organically, but it's just through a lot of trial and error and experimentation, and like I feel like I've been lucky on tying in um, or connecting all the things I've been doing. And the name, like, I didn't really give it much thought until later on in my career. Um, I did some Googling, like there's like a Hox gene. I thought that was fascinating. But it's funny. A champagne company kind of basically stole my name, and I ended up. I don't want to get into too much, but I was trying to make some lemonade about it, and the guy was like, he was telling me like he just came up with the name because it was all these geometric shapes out of all the letters in the alphabet, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. That wasn't why I chose it, but it's pretty cool that it ends up having that. And loosely they fall in. You could see H's and like there's like loose like O's and X's that sometimes I'll just I it's not really intentional, but they just happen. Like
Mm.
they're shapes that happen in patterns all over the place. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
kind of little stupid lucky kind of vibes.
yeah, that's good. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I thought it might be like a graffiti name from your youth or something like that.
Totally. I mean, that's what I was using in high school, and that's how that's what I use in my crew. People know me as Hawks. Some people say Hoxxoh, but it's usually people I'm just meeting, kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, but I just was never really. I mean, early, in high school, and very little interest in lettering. Um, but it has roots in graffiti.
Mm.
It's way more flexible than just like once you go by your name,
Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting because I know a lot of people, especially who have been known as like, say, a graffiti name or another name, and then they go through this evolution of their art and their life, and they just decide that they want to be known as their government name or whatever. Then
yeah.
it's this whole like mental dilemma. Like I know I went through it when I was evolving, from the streets to the studio, but
Yeah.
gee, it's like a rebirth, and it's painful.
Yeah, a
It's
bit,
like
a
going
bit.
through puberty again or something. Yeah.
It's like, wait, what's my name?
Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody, I don't know. Yeah, like the same confusion I have, I'm giving to the audience because they're confused on like, wait, what do we call you? Like, what do you go by? Is
Yeah.
it Doug? Is it Hawk? Is it Hoxo? I don't know. I haven't really figured out why that is, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I think maybe loosely, I think it should just be about the work than the person. You know, um, a little bit of like killing the ego vibe.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I guess that's why there's so many faceless artists out there these days.
a little bit, I
Mm.
think, but oddly, the faceless artists, they're still got their face, and
Yeah.
I don't get it. Don't be on. Never mind.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. I think the best
um,
one to do that has been Banksy because no one even knows like what his
exactly.
silhouette looks
Yeah,
like. Anything. It's yeah.
it's
But
Banksy.
yeah,
Yeah, this mystery.
yeah, yeah. Like I've met him several times. I still don't know what he looks like because he was always in fancy dress. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. He used to put on these exhibitions years ago. This is even before he blew up. Like back in 2000, 2001, I was living in London, and he'd have these exhibitions, and he would put on a thing called Santa's Ghetto instead of Santa's Grotto, and but he would always come in dressed as Santa, and he'll be handing stuff out, and like I went to several of these, and he was always dressed as Santa, and that's the only time I've ever seen
Sick.
him. Yeah,
I haven't heard that one.
yeah. But he was like, it was funny. It was like he pre-thought this. This was before. Yeah, he was selling like his prints and original stencils for like £30.
He's definitely calculated. Like,
Mm, yeah,
I think that's a lot of it. What's so brilliant about him? Like, he really thought about it. Like this, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm just gonna go for it. Like this guy's like a logistic guru. Like short term and long term kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah. It's definitely clever.
Banksy,
Yeah,
very.
yeah. So so moving on, did you ever go to art school or anything like that?
Yeah. I kind of I did about 10 years in college. Um, I would have stayed longer, but they wouldn't let me borrow any more money. But yeah, I studied to start. I studied painting and art history, and then I kind of just switched everything up and uh, chose to study architecture. Um, and I did a 5 year program in 4 years, uh, and ended up with enough credits for a minor in philosophy, almost another degree. I was kind of becoming a professional student. Like I could see how you could get easily stuck in that. And I just graduated at the worst time possible, to have a degree in architecture, which was 2008 when the real estate bubble exploded. Um, Super grateful now that that happened, but yeah. Um, I wouldn't say like I learned much in, studying painting, but definitely really interested in art history. And then, the takeaway from architecture was like really like learning a work ethic. Um, we joke around and like the nickname is Architorture. Uh, you really learn how to like present your work without sleeping, like staying awake for 3 days to get your work done kind of thing, and these super unrealistic deadlines. And um, yeah, it was great. Sleep under your desk kind of vibe. I basically, I don't think I left school for like a good 6 months. They even gave me like a TA position. I think it was so I had an office then, and then I could sleep in the office, not like in random studios and waking up in the middle of like other people's classes. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So like even during that architecture time and everything you learnt there, do you feel that like those that you've got skills that have transitioned into what you're doing now?
um, Slowly, like very slowly. Um, I don't know. I've applied it in some of my murals that I've been doing, very loosely. It's more of like a nod to that era of my life. I recently I started working with furniture again, and this fabric concrete, which is a kind of a newer material. Um, so I've been kind of like I feel like I'm reconnecting with that. If anything, it's more like just project management. I learned, like understand. Okay, we want to do this, but there's a lot of moving parts, and like figuring out how to do that. But the actual like learning of design and architectural design, I think I'd be lying if I was like, that's why I've been doing all these different kinds of paintings using sacred geometry. But definitely after the fact and like looking back at my work, and even just, next day looking at work, there was always these wild parallels to my studies in architecture. And but it was never like why I'm doing or why I'm painting. Like even on that nod of sacred geometry, like I'm really fascinated by it, but that's or like even like a spiritual aspect of what I'm painting, which a lot of people think, which is, I think is great, but it's not why I'm painting or what I'm trying to paint. It's just kind of a happy coincidence, I guess. But I lean into it sometimes, you know. It just I don't know, just I I don't like my paintings. I don't. It's not often that I'm in this super conceptual idea or a narrative. It's always like this focus on like how am I painting? Um, I don't know what the infatuation is, but I don't know, it's just what gets me going, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I feel that art sort of just pours out of you, and I don't know. I like this analogy that you can talk about it and intellectualize it, but I feel that art is sort of like your handwriting, the way you walk, your dance moves on the dance floor. You know what I mean? It just sort of you don't choose them. It's just sort of who you are and how it comes out of you. You know,
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
theory anyway.
I like that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Like, yeah, it's funny. I make a bunch of like different like when on the lift when we were painting murals. Like I call it the dance floor. It was actually our first performance. Not even realizing it was a performance, but it was the first time we painted a mural with the speakers with the cymatics with the paint connected to the sound. And I looking back, like next day, I was like, man, we were literally dancing with Murphy's Law the entire 12-hour day. Everything that could go wrong. Um, and I was like loosely like DJing because in between, I used an 808 to make the speakers work. But in between all our problem solving, I'm just playing my playlist kind of thing. And later in the afternoon, we had an audience of like maybe 30, 40 people. And it was uh, just trying to like not pay attention to it, nor did I have any time to pay attention to it because we were dealing with so much problem solving. Yeah, kind of just dancing with it. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to name the song. I think it's even in definitely in my mural work, and it bleeds into my studio work. I think I'm way more interested in other people's interpretations than my own. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get into all those sound pieces and stuff a bit later. I'm looking forward to finding
easy.
out more about them. Um, yeah, I was heard you do a talk, and you were talking about how you helped El Mac and Retina paint a mural in Miami, which really opened your mind to can techniques and things like that. Can you tell
Yeah.
me about that?
Um, I think I'm gonna mess up the year, but it was like 2008 or nine. Maybe I want to say 2009. Um, they were coming in to paint for primary flight. Uh, to actually paint on the Margulies collection, which you can see from I-95. Um, I was already a massive fan of Elmac's work. Um, so I quickly volunteered to like help them out with whatever it is. Uh, take them around a little bit, show them where to eat, and then get the projector, and then drive the lift for El Mac while he was sketching. Um, that was definitely just like a magical moment. Let alone like to get to see him to work, but then I'm in the basket being his arm, like driving him on his sketch and just yeah, the way he works that fat cap, the cone, it's he makes it look really easy. It's wild. Um and like yeah, just like one of the beautiful thing about painting murals is and being in his community is you get to meet all these rad artists and like build friendships and there was that moment i I already had the mark kind of thing, like I was already messing around with this U-shaped mark, and then it just was just solidified like, oh dude, you figure out a, a technique or a particular mark style and then build on that, like own it. um his is just this one technique, and it definitely gave me like confidence, like all right, I can take this one mark and figure out how to build on that and what patterns can I make with it. Yeah, it's wild how things kind of just line up like that. um and it wasn't for like maybe five more years until like I kind of fell into where I'm at now with it. And I'm kind of like full circle again because like right now I'm wanting to break from that pattern of the off-centered circle, which is the portal or vortex, some people call it. bunch of other names too. Yeah, I feel like I hit the 10-year marker of that, and I'm really looking forward. Like what I'm about to do, I leave for Kansas City tomorrow, and tomorrow I'm gonna do a mural that's breaking from that just standard pattern that I've been doing for a minute. Um, yeah, I think that was a long-winded answer to meeting Mac. It's crazy too. Like fast forward, I ended up, collaborating with him on a wall in Denver, 2021. Um, yeah, pretty magical. Very grateful how that just all kind of worked out.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
definitely was nervous on that wall, and then my paint order didn't come in. And it was a nightmare. I had to run around town and like just find whatever cans I could find and enough of each color to like pull it off. But yeah.
Mm. So with the primary flight and Wynwood walls, but being like a someone based in Miami, did you play a role in all of that? Were you part in the mix there?
Yeah, I joined Primary Flight it was like 2008 or 2009. It was like their second year. I'm kind of messing up those facts, but it was in the very beginning. Uh I was on a project that kind of went south and just needed to be busy, like didn't need idle hands, and I already had uh, two airless spray guns and a generator and a little Tacoma pickup truck, and I just went to Books and Typo, who were the founders and running it, and just offered my services. Like I'll buff all the walls for everyone, and which was like there's a big lot called RC Cola Factory. And it's just a massive block, huge walls. And we buffed that in one night and then went on to buff probably another dozen other walls. Um it just which led into like, a lot of artists and muralists at that time hadn't been in lifts nor how to dry lifts. So I was teaching a lot of people how to, the quick runaround on how to use a lift and like then problem solving during the event. Some things I couldn't fix, like the gas went into a diesel lift, like it's, um, but it was really beautiful mayhem. Like the city had no idea what we were doing there. um, we were even amazed because I think that first year there was a couple dozen artists that were invited and a handful of graffiti artists and like probably 100 graph artists showed up, and then the next year was like hundreds of graffiti artists came, and most of the muralists had our graffiti artists as well. um, it was pretty magical what happened back then. Like baffling, like what we got away with. I remember one night I drove a lift with a light tower chained to the back of it, and I drove it like 6 blocks across town, like through traffic. There wasn't much traffic at night back then, but still, like there was no cops around. Like they were just like they didn't get what was happening. They caught on rather quick, especially when Wynwood Walls and Tony bought up a bunch of parcels and uh, brought in the blue chip artists, and yeah, I worked for the Wynwood Walls. First couple years I was like the art handler. I'd hang their whole show. I was during that time I was like just doing every kind of art install, working the fairs, working galleries, trying to do my own work, fit in a mural here and there. Um, one year I got to collaborate with Andrew Schultz on a wall, and I was on the team that was building the Buckminster Fuller geodesic 3/4 fly's eye dome, but a geodome. Um, and then like yeah, still installing shows, installed Wynwood Walls. It was. that was like, if you're an artist in Miami, the November and December was when you would make like half of your money that year. Um, but it was fun. I don't miss elements of that. But yeah, just right time, right place, kind of thing.
I guess it would have had a really positive impact on the scene from so many ways, like networking with lots of people coming to town, and
Yeah.
also all everyone's eyes were on Miami for those weeks and all that. But did it get a bit played out after a while? And what was the public perception from the local artists?
Mm, I mean, yeah, it's like, it's over 10 years. Um, I think I had a really good run of like maybe 6 or 8 years. It was really magical. Looking back on it, um, it's just so saturated. And there was moments in the earlier days, or like there was a mural here, and then you had a breather. There'd be a building or two without anything on it. And there you could tell there was some thought a little bit on what artists went where. But that was just only the first couple years, and then it just it grew so fast. Um, Even now, it's still, every time I go down there, I'm on the road a lot, but like I feel like every couple months I end up down there and there's a whole new building they just built. Um, it's gone through a lot of changes. In the early years there were artists there. We had studios there. There were a bunch of galleries. Like most of the galleries in Miami were in the Wynwood area. And it things changed, and a lot of galleries moved either up to the little Haiti area or out in Alapata, which I think is great. I think Wynwood, it's great for what it is. It's just like a wild Mardi Gras kind of thing. It's like a carnival. Uh, I don't know. I don't think it's hard to recreate that. I think it's almost impossible to recreate that. Um, like I think what happened there, that was kind of the first mural festival, and there's moments of that. Like I've done a lot of mural festivals all around, and they catch a moment of it, but it's just, I don't know. It's not that it's impossible. It's just, it's hard to explain how crazy what happened here. Um, there was like, I feel like on the second and third year of it, there was like over 100 murals going up within a week. Um, it's pretty wild, and you really saw the city change like overnight. Like, you don't even recognize it. Um, but I don't know.
That's crazy. It's crazy. So with Art Basel, coming around every year in Miami, being a Miami-based artist, what's that like for you?
Um, I mean, yeah, there's pros and cons. I'm definitely a little burnt out and salty about it, but the pros to it are, um, the week before Basel is my favorite time because a lot of artists are in town, and a lot of the local shows happen. But that's when everybody's installing, and like things are happening, and like things are getting created and made. Um, it's always great to see old friends and make new friends. Definitely, it's been a bonus to like host artists so that when I hit the road, the favors um, return, so to speak. It's kind of the best way to see any city, I feel like, is through a artist or musician kind of thing. But I don't know, man. I thought it was like, because I've been doing it for been here and experienced it for so many years that uh there's not there's not many things at the like after post Basel. It's like looking back on like something that was just super inspiring or just wowed. I think I think more of it's maybe my age and just uh I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of art I do like. I mean, I don't even like a lot of my stuff that I'm doing. Uh I think the last couple years on travels and like going to museums wherever we're painting and like man, I think like I don't like 90-95% of the stuff that's in there. Or I'm just bored by it. Uh I'm not really sure what it is. I keep blaming it on my age. Uh, I don't know that that's the right excuse, but or even that I need an excuse. But uh, I forget where we were. I think we were in Amsterdam, and we walked out of the museum that has the Night Watch art. The I forget the name of the museum, but I don't know, dude. It's all like weird propaganda, all like, look at this war we won, and like, I don't know. Look at my ship. Look at this battle. I don't know. And then I feel like if it hasn't been made in within the last at least last 100 years, or at least last 50 years, 60 years, I'm kind of just not even interested at all. Um, I don't know what that is, but yeah,
Yeah, I
not
feel there's a bit
sure.
of a shift happening though. With like I just know from speaking with art collectors, um, I've noticed that art collectors these days seem a lot more interested in buying art from living artists and meeting the artists and building a connection with them, as opposed to just collecting something from someone because they've passed away and they're not making anymore. So there's value. It's more like that's investment based collecting versus like passion based. You know.
I mean, those are the right collectors to me. I've been lucky to meet maybe a few that it's beautiful how they understand they're nurturing and investing in a career. You know, not it's more about the art, the everything about the artist, not just the artifact. Um, but wouldn't mind meeting some collectors that don't really give a shit and uh, you know, but I don't have those problems. It'd be nice to have a couple of them though.
Yeah, totally. So so moving on to your mural work, like the first walls of yours that really caught my attention were your portal murals. Like they're just really mesmerizing, and you know you've got that optical illusion you've got with them. It just sucks you right in there. Like how
Yeah,
did they come about, and can you talk me through the process of making them?
yeah. So when I first started working with that mark, I just did it full chaos on the wall or the big panel I'd be working on. Just pattern over pattern over pattern, which led to when I started working more on walls, I would draw a giant circle and contain it. So there are these huge like balls of just chaos, and which led to doing concentric rings, which kind of read like mandalas. Um, I mean, they read like mandalas, but it was just about structure. And then finally, it was a few years of that, and then what year was that? I think it was like 2015 or 2016. Um, I did a wall in Washington D.C. for the powwow, um, and I off-centered the rings, and that crazy optical illusion just happened. Um, it's pretty wild. Um, just working and thinking about it compositionally, and then like seeing what happens, and yeah, it kind of just opened up that whole lane of where can I go with this optical illusion. Um, the works prior to that, there's always like a little optic, like it's the your eyes they kind of vibrate the murals. Like my work never photographs right. Like to experience it, you it really is it's psychedelic. Like it'll optically mess with your vision. Um, so that was already inherent, and then when we off centered it and I started playing with depth and the illusion of depth. Yeah, it was kind of exciting to just how, and it really kicked off. Um, it was a good jump start in my career. Uh, it was one of those moments that I, posted on Instagram, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and it was just wild, the reaction to it. And even like the blogs were still kind of a thing back then, like Colossal and High Fructose, they all reposted my work. And it was definitely a huge like boost of confidence and like in what I was doing. Because it's kind of like a common theme is like I find myself uh, out of my comfort zone, like not knowing. I didn't realize that's what I was doing early on, and then like the last few years, I've leaned into like if it's something that makes me feel uncomfortable or I'm not confident about it, then I like force myself to go into that direction. Um, like the mantra at the studio has been a little bit of like, like, em- like embracing failure and like hugging the uncomfortable kind of thing. Um, yeah. Um, Pretty wild. I mean, even early on too, when I found that mark, I had been doing it for probably a year, and then like I knew of Futura's work, and then I had a good friend point me in that direction, and like I it blew my mind. There was a moment I was like, ah, fuck, like he did it, like Lenny did it first, like um, equally inspiring. Like, no way, that's sick. There is somebody like that has worked with this and gets it, like, or is interested in working like this. Um, and you know, later on, I found out. Or learned that he was stabbing the can against like mostly against the can. I found one video where he was like painting a bus and he's just stabbing the wall with a can. There was one painting I really liked by his. I think it was called like Red Fountain, but it's two huge canvases, white background and red can, and it was like these two movements, like two spouts of water, two waves. um, that definitely was like I don't know, something clicked there. It was really inspiring. And then I don't know. I guess like learning that, and then realizing what I was doing. Like I don't touch the wall, and it's more of like a flick. Um, and like I was because of being here in Miami and like and thankfully Wynwood Walls brought Lenny in, and I was lucky to sit down with him one day where he was painting, and I just had like a really magical conversation. Like he had seen my work around town, and he couldn't really figure out how I was doing it, and that was like another moment. It was like, no way, like he knows how I'm doing it, but he couldn't exactly figure it out. And that was definitely another like moment in my career. Was like, okay, if I got him guessing, like I'm on to something. And that was early on. I think that was like I was just starting to do the mandala looking ones. um and I had quite a few tags and like a bunch of illegal stuff in the streets at that time too. um I definitely put a little more effort in that back then.
Yeah, that's awesome. What an honor to have Futura giving you the nod. You know,
Yeah, I
well,
was like, what do you mean you don't know how you know how I'm doing it? It was like, oh, I'm doing it a little different, just a little bit, not much, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I watched. I saw a video of him on YouTube the other day doing a painting tutorial, and just some of his techniques and everything is just Yeah, it's very unique, and he's very fascinated on what you can do with the
Was
can.
that
And
the
he's got,
master class or was that Louisiana channel or
I
something?
think, the Louisiana channel, the one where he
Yeah.
screws up the canvas on the ground and sprays it, and then everything's just sitting on the ground. And he's always he's talking about that tube that goes through the can and how he's working with that tube in mind and holding
Yeah.
the can at different angles so he gets little splutters of paint.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, man,
yeah.
yeah,
I like
I
how yeah
think.
he's like pulling out saw blades.
Mm.
It's awesome.
Yeah, because I think, like, the more you can understand your tools and experiment with tools, the more you can sort of find your lane within your art. And through looking through your work, like, you seem to have worked with a wide range of tools that you've
Yeah.
manipulated yourself over the years. Can you tell me about some of the tools that you've created and what you work with on a daily basis?
Yeah. I mean that was like that's a big focus in my work and like that's where I kind of that's where all my work starts, so to speak, is the mechanism or the tool. The first was a can of spray paint. The second thing I started experimenting was a paint pendulum, like in 2012, 2011 kind of thing. And that's just a water bottle filled with paint fixed to the roof and having the painting on the ground. So working with gravity and throwing it. And I worked with that for quite a few years. Uh, Kind of discovered the if it's tied only once, you would get either a spiral or a parabolic curve. If you tie it twice, it does this weird trapezoid pattern and it'll spin back on itself. Um, I did some conceptual work with the pendulum. I did a series of paintings that was about time, and I had one of them was 60 10-inch circles, so like really small paintings, and I'd let the pendulum paint for 1 minute on each one, and so it was conceptually this hour, and then it opened up this dialogue of like what is time and blah blah blah. And then I through that body of work, I started working with I was like pouring paint on the canvas and then letting the pendulum create these crazy grids on it, and then I'd pick it up and I was like shifting it, and I was calling the work gravity mapping, and I was just letting gravity pull these patterns, and through that body of work, there was a lot of paintings like paints just falling off these canvases, so I kind of started painting with paintings. So there was a minute where the painting is actually the brush. I made a few of those. Um, it kind of backfires because you still end up like you don't end up with two paintings. Like there's one that's sort of great, and then the other one is like it's nothing. But that led to using a dustpan instead of another painting, just like a logical pivot. And and I was like looking like as I was working with the dustpan and starting to work with it. I'd like I'd pour paint into that, various colors, let the pendulum make these patterns, and then I was like, at first, just like trying to figure out how to stretch and like let the paint fall and be able to chop with it. I was trying to find patterns with that, and I kind of fell into a certain pattern work for a while, and then I tried to step into like suggestive portraiture just by the composition, um, and the movement I was doing with it. It kind of felt a little like abstract surrealism, but I don't know. It was just I did a few series of that. There at the same time, like when I was like starting to work with the dustpan, I was looking at Gerhard Richter's work and his squeegee pieces, and I kept thinking like if I had the squeegee when he was done taking everything off the painting, basically. And then like reapplying that was like these loose ideas I had in my head. um I guess there's definitely moments like in all of my work where I'll start working with something and then it'll make me think about another artist's work, and I've always used that as like uh like a confidence booster, like even more of a reason to investigate it more and like see how I can own it in a different way. Um, then after the dustpan, for a short minute, I was like uh, working with a guy where we're building these mechanisms to hold multiple spray paint cans. I did one that was like in a triangle, like seeing if the cones mixed. Another one was just three cans. I tried to make like a weird typewriter. There's like 14 cans of spray paint on it, and we were gonna like through pointillism be able to like make different letters or numbers with it, but it pretty much failed. But it's a really cool sculpture, but not a great mechanism or tool to paint with. Um, and then the next series of work was using irrigation tools, garden, things you would water your garden with. Um, like understanding how a fire extinguisher works, and it's really just a pressure pot. It's a pressure tank, and then kind of like the idea if it can pump water, it can pump paint. And like the first idea was I have this drawing for like a big box truck and putting irrigation systems under it and then have like thousands of liters of paint inside it. I wanted to paint like the whole highway down here, like one of the east and west ones, or even up north, like the 595 or like 836. Like um, it was kind of inspired, like when you're around here, when you're driving on the highway, every now and then you'd see like, oh shit, a 5 gallon bucket of paint fell off the truck or it's leaking out of the truck, and I would find myself like following the paint and like seeing like, oh man, it keeps going, oh he got off at that exit kind of vibe. um I like even had ideas to like maybe have multiple trucks and drive just one block around like several buildings in the downtown. um these were all ideas like that was before drones, and I was like, well, how am I going to get that photo? Like I can't afford to rent a helicopter to like get up there and like um but there were these ideas I was playing with, and that's like kind of what opened the door to like, wait, like it'd be kind of sick to have a sprinkler just unload in a room or multiple sprinklers, or like maybe I have yet to get this installation, but like it's definitely something I want to do, where like just the simple idea of like having these sprinklers set up in an inside where they would look as a sculpture kind of wild with all these tanks and pipes, and it'd be all over the interior, and then doing the same thing on the outside, and then within like minutes the whole interior and exterior changes. um I definitely could talk a storm on architectural space and lighting and blah blah blah. But I don't know, just the idea of just changing space and everything with paint. Um, maybe there's like, as I'm thinking about it, like maybe like it's a little, and it is a joke of mine. Like I spent all this time studying architecture, thinking I would design buildings to just be painting them. And so maybe it's a little bit of a fuck you to like, not that I wasted my time all that time in school, but I don't think I should have spent that long in school. um and that's been a longer road. Really lucky how I keep getting these opportunities to work with these tools, and it's usually the reason why I get them is because they're the really odd surfaces. They're like a corrugated metal building, and there's always budget restraints. Like they'll want, like sometimes they, on a few of them they wanted the portal work, but it's the cost of spray paint. If it's a huge wall, like the time, like there's usually the budget's not there, or even the time. So I would pitch the sprinkler idea, and I've been really lucky on a handful of people have been really receptive and giving me the chance. And like I think now Now I'm gaining a little more control of them. Just there's been a lot of learning. Like there's one gun that shoots, I think, like 18 lines of paint, and we were calling it the crosshatch gun. Um, that one I'm starting to gain a lot more control on. We have a couple walls lined up where I'm hoping I can like demonstrate that on a wall. Um, Prior to that, it's just been uh, chaos basically. Some like just as long as there was like the color theory made sense, like have a few rules on that, like set some boundaries, and then usually would come back and cut it with white. And that was always kind of reacting to the architecture. Like the first one I did that, it was actually just the sprinkler, the German sprinkler called the company's name is Rainbird. And that's the one everybody knows, it's a very common. I think a lot of people have that nostalgic memory as kids running through sprinklers, hopefully. Um, and I ran that one on a 60-foot lift. I think it was like a 50-foot. I think the wall was 50 feet tall and like maybe 150 feet long. Ran the sprinkler one day, did a full color gradient on that, and then the next day we came back and did arches that just connected each expansion joint on the parking garage, and it made just like in my head it was kind of like the elevation of these like Roman bathhouse, these barrel vaults or a bridge. This very uh, super common architectural engineering structure form. But the main reason is like just giving it some structure. Uh, the too much of a good thing is a bad thing, and like uh, my work can be so visually um, overwhelming that I've found it's great to have some moments where your eye can rest. Um, that's been a bit of a learning process, but it's kind of the idea. Uh,
Yeah, those white arches really they gave it real high contrast against all the bright colors as well. It was
yeah.
good because it's so chaotic and drippy and overlays, but then they were so clean with the lines.
Yeah, and polar opposite. It's great just like traditionally painting with like a roller and a brush, and like I typically it's like a super high gloss white. Um, I don't know. I think that's my favorite part. Like it's just super therapeutic painting, simple. Like you kind of moments like just painting a house white kind of vibe.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, the one that I've been really loving lately is the music rig that you've been using, and then it
I think
vibrates up and down. Is that how you
I'll
explain
try.
it?
I'm still trying to figure out, but it's basically there's a pressure tank and then there's a hose that connects to the speaker, and that hose has a nozzle at the end. It's really just open. The hose is the nozzle, and through the bounce of the speaker, and with an addition to the sound waves, the paint the paint stream falls into the wave, and we're painting with sound waves. Um, Cymatics. My studio is mostly outdoors, and we'll have like a 6x9 canvas stapled to the wall, and then one of these guys at the end. Um, we were trying to rotate, which I something we're going to end up getting to, but the canvas, and I have one. The canvas needs to be like at least 2 meters, a 2 meter circle, and the idea was the speaker would be stationary, and then the canvas would rotate, and it was kind of like playing with the concept of like a record. Um, there's another drawing that we want to put the speaker on a circular track in a room, and then like I don't know how safe it's gonna be, but we could figure out how to make it safer. But having the speaker traveling at 33 miles, .333, like the speed of a record player, and having it spray paint on the room. Like, uh, definitely like a little inspiration from like Chris Burden when he had the steamroller levitate kind of vibe. I don't know if you ever seen that piece, but uh, yeah, we've been looking into getting like a speed winch, which kids use, like people use them to like wake skate in canals and lakes. Um, it's crazy how fast they go. I think they can go up to 60 miles an hour. I didn't, I never thought I'd need it, but now I'm kind of curious. Like, even if it's going up a wall at 60 miles an hour, um, I don't know. There's moments I know like the things I'm doing are like they're fucking fun, you know. Like there's a little bit of like the comedian Gallagher smashing watermelons with sledgehammers. Like, yeah, it's good to have a laugh, you know. But then there still is an element of like I am taking this very seriously, but it's a play, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
um, it's a weird dance on that one.
So with your studio work, do you like I noticed you're mostly focused on murals and outdoor work, but you are creating a lot of work in the studio as well. Do you have a lot of focus for your art career aimed at galleries and stuff? Is that a big priority?
um, Man, I've always had a balance of, you know, from the beginning, painting in the garage at my parents' house to and painting walls from the start. And then I've always had a studio space. Um, I've had a like I've had an okay run. I wouldn't say I've had like great experiences with galleries, but um I've had good experiences. I just always did each show is like a totally different body of work. I think it was really confusing for a lot of people wanting to maybe invest in my work. Looking back on it too, I think it was like I think every gallery I've worked with was pretty young, you know, under 5 years old. And the I think as of last year and this year, I don't have any works with any gallery. Um, it just happened on its own, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I think prior, a lot of times when I found myself working a lot in the studios because I knew I had a show, and it was the work was always driven behind the concept or the idea of the show or whatever technique I wanted to focus on. And now, as of last year, I built out a larger outdoor studio here, and as of this year, I got what I wanted, where I was able to have like it ended up being 5 months of time at my studio. It gets a little difficult. The mural schedule uh, kind of consumes my life a lot of years. There's a handful of years. It was like 26 murals in a year. Um, and they take a lot out of you, these big walls. Like I'd get home from a 1 or 2 week project and it always, you know, sometimes there's jet lag I'm dealing with, but usually it's just what the wall took out of me. It's just, you know, I need a 3 4 days to just, you know, regain whatever energy I spent, or just you know, avoid burnout. And then even when you get back in the studio, it always takes a minute to just get back into the groove. But I've really enjoyed having a healthy studio routine. You know, I'm here usually by between 10 and 11 in the morning, and I'm usually leaving around 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Um, and yeah, like I had a lot of time. Like this, it was a weird year, man. Like I lost a lot of work, got either postponed, and a lot of it just canceled early in the year. Um, so it was like a double edged sword.
Hey artist, it's Claire here from the Art Career Academy. If you've been creating for years and you know it's time to go all in on your art career, then Tom and I are here to support you. If you're ready to grow your visibility, build more consistent income, and step fully into life as a professional artist, that's exactly what we help with. Our signature program, Going Pro, is designed for artists who are ready to up-level. We support you with the clarity, confidence, and a solid plan to turn your creative practice into a thriving career, without the burnout or second-guessing every move. At the Art Career Academy, we're all about raising up the art community and showing what's possible when artists back themselves. So to get started, grab our free Creative Cashflow cheat sheet. It's packed with 20 tried and tested ways to make an income from your art. Head to artcareeracademy.com to download it now. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
I just want to be here working. There's a lot of work to do.
Totally. Yeah, you're a mad scientist. You know, you got new tools to invent, and
Yeah, new speakers to buy.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
uh, maybe I don't know. I think that's where we were.
yeah. All right. Well, man, Hox, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. Like, I've been watching your art for years now, and yeah, I just love just see the inventiveness of your creativity, and I love watching it. I can see why you got such a big following. It's mesmerizing to watch the videos you put out there and all the
Thank you.
content, and yeah, I love the finished product of all the artworks, and I can tell you put a lot of passion and thought behind what you're doing, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Much appreciated. Thank you, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
no worries.
this has been great. I
Yeah,
feel like we could talk another hour easily. Uh, Maybe a
yeah,
little bit of a to be continued.
exactly,
Uh,
exactly.
I'd love to paint in Australia or New Zealand, um, one of these days.
Yeah, I'd love to get over to Miami, especially for Basil Week. You know.
I mean, look me up.
Yeah.
My goal this year is to just be here at my studio. Um, I feel like every year I'm like, oh, I'm not doing anything, and then things happen. But
Mm.
this one, I want to try hard to just be here and
Yeah.
host people at my studio. Uh,
Cool.
I hope you make it. Keep me posted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if
Well
not,
done.
don't come during Basel. January is amazing. The
Yeah.
weather's beautiful, and like a lot of you can still see a lot, like all the collections, like everything you would be rushing to see then, you could still see half of it. Just, all the fairs are gone, but you really
Mm.
need to go to the fairs.
Yeah. Skip the crowds, eh?
Yeah, the people is fun, but
Yeah.
there's still some stragglers. People kind of end up hanging out a bit after.
Yeah. Cool.
uh, Awesome, man.
All right. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. It's been great.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it, man.
Okay, that's a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the chat. Big thanks to today's guest for joining me, and a huge thank you to you two for tuning in. If you got something out of this episode, hit subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It helps more artists discover the show and keeps the good stuff coming. And also, feel free to tell a friend. You can also follow us on Instagram at bench_talk and also at Art Career Academy to stay in loop with all things creating and sustaining your art career. Thanks again for listening, and catch you next time on Bench Talk. See ya.